When you want to make a car faster, there's two main things you can do. The first one, increase the power. But what's the second way? Well, weight reduction. You start to drop a load of weight out of a car and of course it becomes faster. That's why you can have motorbikes with hardly any amount of power in consideration to a car be twice as fast as them because they've got no weight. So with the G80 M3 behind me, I was thinking, what can we do to reduce weight on this car but without removing anything? All we want to do is replace components. So there's been 4 main components replaced on this car and we basically got rid of the weight of a person. So let's go through what we changed and what sort of benefits that's had on the car. Without completely removing components from this car, so we wanted to still keep it for daily use, how much weight was we able to save? Well, I'll let you know, it was 83 kilograms, also known as 13 stone, about the weight of the average male, or just a little bit less than myself. So a fair amount of weight saving, but if you want to know what the difference is like, go get a passenger in your car, and how much slower your car is how much faster we've made our one by taking these parts out of it. But it does get a little bit more in depth than that. Some of the parts that we've changed are rotating and should have a greater effect. So let's get into it. Let's actually talk about how much weight saving did we save on each individual component and how we came up with that total of 83 kilograms. So firstly, I've got these light wheels here, but they're not actually on the car. There's one simple reason for it. I love the way the OEM wheels look, so because of it, I've actually took these lightweight ones off. But just so you guys know, the weight saving on these is 12 kilograms. So I'm saving, on average, 3 kilograms a corner. It actually works out that there's a bit more weight saving on the rear than there is on the fronts because we have a staggered setup on these as stock. This is now a square setup, and no, it doesn't affect the X-Drive and it runs absolutely fine. I do like the look of these, but I love the look of the OEM wheels. Moving on to the next part, let's talk about the disc. This is a part of the video that I missed out some information on, so I'm reshooting it. So if I look a little bit different, that's why. These discs are an aftermarket replacement for the steel ones. So they're carbon ceramics, but they're not the carbon ceramics provided from BMW. The difference being, it works with the original caliper, it works with the original ABS pumps, so you don't have to switch them over to the BMW carbon ceramic version, and the disc is the same size as the steel disc. The carbon ceramic from BMW is actually 20mm bigger, and that was something that I was curious of. Am I going to have good braking power if I'm using a disc that's smaller than BMW would have specified? Well, I can say that the brake discs are working great. The initial response, as with all carbon ceramics, is phenomenal. I even feel like I got faster reactions, and if I need to do prolonged braking or multiple hard brakes, I'm finding that I'm not picking up brake fade and I'm braking in a much shorter distance. So if I'm going to run all this extra power, it's nice to know that I've got good braking to go with it. I would say that the steel discs are pretty decent from factory. I'm used to driving M5s to a heavier car, so jumping in the M3, I noticed that the brakes were much, much better already. But why did I do this? Weight reduction. I've saved 21 kilos going from the steel disc to these aftermarket carbon ceramics. It's a great benefit for me. I've now got better braking, I've got less weight, and also it's easier to look after the alloys. I haven't got all the brake dust going over them, so all in all, it's a product that I'm very happy with. Later in the video, I'm going to talk about the straight line performance difference, but when it comes to actual driving characteristics of the car, changing alloys and the discs over have made a huge difference. The car's so much more nimble, it feels so much more reactive on the steering. And for you guys that are looking to do track work, if you want a car with a first turn in and you want something that feels like it's giving you lots of feedback, I really recommend a set of lightweight wheels because it really has transformed the way that this car drives when I have them on. Third on the list of modifications, and that is the exhaust system. If we have a look at the tips, see these little velocity tuning logos, nice and subtle. If we come underneath the car, you can see we've got a different back box and a different exhaust system. So this is a full system, it's made of titanium, and if you take note of that back box, it's quite a bit smaller than the standard one. Also, if you have a look at the flow characteristics, you can see when the valves are opened, it's going through no back box. And when the valves are closed, it's processed through this back box that you can see here. So, what's the weight saving? Well, In front of us, we have a standard exhaust system, and as you can see, that back box is huge. And because of that, the weight saving is actually 24 kilograms. Yeah, you heard that right. Take off this system, switch it over to titanium, you're gonna save 24 kilos. For us, we saved 18 kilos, and that's because we was already running a single mid pipe. So where you see these additional pipes at the front, they were already removed on our car, so most of our weight saving has came from this back box being removed and the fact we're now using titanium as our exhaust material. There's 3 areas on the car that are saving big weight: discs, alloys, and of course the exhaust system. For you guys that are already running carbon ceramics, of course you've already got that weight saving there, but the wheels and the exhaust system really do make a difference. And I was a bit worried about the exhaust being really loud, but it sounds amazing. The valves work really well on it as well. So that's 3 of our weight saving parts done. Where's the 4th? Well, this is probably the most controversial one, and one that's not going to be for many people out there, and that is the seats. So as you guys know, you've got comfort seats, and then you've got the bucket seats. A lot of people don't opt for the bucket seats because they're not as comfortable. A lot of people do opt for the bucket seats because they look amazing. Well, both of them are relatively heavy, and there is a really light alternative if you're up for fitting it. Let's have a look. When it comes to modifications, this one I love. It's a bit Marmite, I reckon. It's probably a lot of you guys that would never do it, but for me, I am a big fan, and that is these Tillet seats. So these are the B5 seats. If I was to do it again, I may have possibly fitted the B10s instead, which are a little bit bigger, but these are rated for up to 100 kilos, and at the moment I'm around 95. So this here is actually saving me 32 kilograms. I've dropped 16 kilos per side. So worthwhile mod. Now, these seats each weigh around 8 kilos, and half of that is the weight of the base. So the actual carbon fibre seat itself only weighs about 4 kilograms. Okay, let's talk about the real numbers. Let's talk about how much faster this car is in terms of acceleration with these weight reducing modifications. So I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I really wanted this car to run a 3.9 100 to 200, and I wasn't quite sure I was going to get there on turbos and tuning alone, so I thought we'd shave a little bit of weight off and see if that was enough to get us there. But as it so happened, before any of these parts turned up, we ran a 3.9 and I didn't need to do it anymore. But the brakes were already ordered, the exhaust was already ordered, I already had the Tillet seat, and I was like, okay, well, I've sort of committed to this now, so let's do it anyway. Less rotational mass, titanium exhaust system, carbon bucket seats. How much faster was we? So we ran a 399, we went back out and we ran a 392. Yeah, we saved like 0.07 of a second. It might seem like it's not worth it, but because we was just trying to dip into the threes, it may have just got us there. But in the big scheme of things, if you're not looking at milliseconds, it's not really worth it. When it goes to our slower maps, it has a greater effect, and on those, we're saving about 0.15 of a second. So if we're running on the petrol or just the meth map, the gain is a little bit more, but think about it. You take a passenger out of a car, is it going to become much faster? No, it's not, and that's the sort of weight saving that we've got here. I have left the mods on, apart from the wheels, because like I said, I love the look of the standard wheels, but running a titanium exhaust system, having the bucket seats, it does give us an advantage, even though it's barely noticeable, and to be honest, I love the way the car looks and sounds. People that like to do track days, go to the Nürburgring, they're going to have more benefits than what I've seen on acceleration alone. Cornering, braking, like I said, when we changed the discs and the alloys on this, the way that the steering was transformed was truly amazing, and it was like being in a completely different car. For us guys that care about acceleration only, it's too easy to pick up performance by turning up the power. This car originally was an 8.5 100 to 200 car, and now we've got it all the way down into the threes. So by doing a load of weight reduction and saving less than 0.1 of a second, it's not really worth it. But it was a good learning curve for me and something that I was happy to experiment with. But like I say, power's really easy to push on these, and just by making more modifications on the tuning, we took this from a 3.9 all the way down to a 3.7, which I'm quite proud to say is able to beat some of the times posted by Bugatti Chirons. They're like 1500 brake horsepower, they're much cooler, much more expensive, but just to be able to say that we can hang our own with a car of that calibre is pretty amazing and something I'm really proud of. For those of you that have been watching this car since it was standard, you may be wondering what's going to be the next modification for it, and as well as it's been holding up really well on the stock engine and gearbox, I don't think it's going to do so well on the gearbox when we start to do lots of quarter-mile work. I think the hard launches may exceed what that stock gearbox is capable of, so it's likely that the next modification on this is going to be upgrading the gearbox. Currently on the stock turbo, the best quarter mile is a 9.4 second, and with these turbos and extra power, I'm really hoping for an 8.9 quarter mile. But to do it, we may have to upgrade the gearbox, so that's likely going to be the next change. If you're interested in seeing more from this car or me at Velocity Tuning, think about liking and subscribing. But thank you for watching, and I'll have another video out soon.